Every year, over 1.4 billion sheep are transported around the world for their meat, wool, and milk. These animals play a significant role in feeding millions and fueling industries. But have you ever stopped to think about how these sheep get from farm to table? What happens during their journey from one side of the world to the other? The reality is more shocking than you might expect. The conditions they endure during transportation and processing might change the way you view your next meal. The sheep industry is massive, with 1.4 billion sheep spread across many countries. This global trade involves various products, including wool, milk, and most notably, meat. Sheep are one of the oldest domesticated animals, and they play a significant role in agricultural economies. Countries like China, Australia, and New Zealand dominate global sheep farming, but major producers are spread throughout the Middle East, Europe, and Asia. Sheep farming provides livelihoods for millions of people, but the demand for these products leads to an industry built on constant transportation. The global scale of the sheep trade also includes exports to markets far and wide. In the Middle East, sheep meat is a staple in diets, and in Europe, sheep are raised primarily for wool and meat. This global demand pushes the need for efficient, though sometimes inhumane, transportation methods. Transporting sheep is an essential part of the industry, but it is often a harsh and grueling process for the animals involved. The first stage of the journey often involves transporting sheep by truck. In many countries, this means long trips across vast distances, sometimes covering hundreds or even thousands of miles. The sheep are packed tightly into trucks, often standing side by side, unable to lie down or turn. Conditions can be extreme, particularly during hot weather, and the animals are frequently deprived of food, water, and shelter during these journeys. The stress of confinement and heat can cause injuries, dehydration, and even death in some cases. In the worst instances, sheep can spend days on these trucks without respite. In some countries, laws exist to limit transportation times, but enforcement can be inconsistent, and violations are common. Even when regulations are followed, the journey itself is physically taxing for the sheep. For international trade, sea transport becomes a primary method for moving large numbers of sheep. Massive livestock ships are designed to carry thousands of sheep at a time, and the journey can take weeks. These ships are often overcrowded, with poor ventilation and limited access to food and water. Many sheep suffer from severe heat stress, and outbreaks of disease are common in such overcrowded conditions. The mortality rate on livestock ships is high, with thousands of sheep dying each year due to conditions on board. In extreme cases, ships have encountered rough seas, and animals have been tossed around in the confined spaces, further increasing the likelihood of injury and death. Tragically, some ships have capsized or been stranded, leading to even more devastating loss of life, though far less common than land or sea transport. Some sheep are airlifted for specific markets or to meet high-demand seasons. Air transport is costly, but for certain premium markets or rare breeds, it is the preferred option. Although the conditions are generally better than on ships or trucks, it is still a stressful experience for the animals. These airlifts are often short-term, but the impact on the sheep's well-being is still significant. Once the sheep have reached their destination, they are unloaded and transported to slaughterhouses or processing plants. Here, the treatment varies greatly depending on the regulations in place, the country's practices, and the type of slaughter system used. Upon arrival at a slaughterhouse, sheep are typically unloaded quickly and often stressed from the long journey. This stress is compounded by the sounds, smells, and chaos of the facility. Some slaughterhouses are notorious for their inhumane practices, with animals being herded in ways that cause panic. In many instances, the sheep are not provided adequate rest after the long journey and are immediately subjected to slaughter procedures. To prepare the sheep for slaughter, they are usually stunned before being killed. In most countries, stunning is required by law to ensure the sheep are unconscious before slaughter. The most common methods of stunning are electrical stunning and captive bolt stunning. However, there are places where stunning is not practiced, particularly in religious slaughter methods. Halal and kosher slaughter practices are widespread in the Middle East and parts of Europe, where sheep are slaughtered without stunning, based on religious beliefs. This process is often controversial as it can be argued that it causes unnecessary suffering to the animal. Once stunned or not, the sheep are slaughtered and processed for meat. This can involve several different methods, including slaughtering with a knife or more mechanized processes in larger facilities. The meat is then processed into various cuts, packaged and distributed to markets worldwide. Wool is also harvested in a separate process, often at the point of shearing, though some sheep are processed for wool before they are sent for slaughter. The transportation and processing of 1.4 billion sheep each year raises serious ethical and environmental concerns. The conditions sheep endure during transport and at processing plants are often criticized.